So let's come back here on show me. These are the plots that we went to draw. Now, let us go back to sheet 1. Yeah, on the data pane here. And we'll remove some of these values. Just typically these values only for your understanding. Let us save this worksheet. That's live session for desktop, specialist course, and the new folder. That's what. So that's what. Credit analysis. I'm clicking save here. Of course, we have deleted all that we had done, but we'll come to that again. So let's take amount invested monthly. Their monthly balance and in-hand salary monthly basis. And with this, what are we trying to see? We're trying to see the occupation. So what do we see here? Let us check it this way. So monthly in-hand salary is what? It appears to be the highest for which profession or which professional? Right. It appears to be the highest for a lawyer at 23 million, followed by an architect at, yeah, 23 million again, but slightly lower than the lawyer. Yeah. And then we have the accountant as well, who's 22 million. Architect is as 2309. Engineer is 22, so he's lower. Lawyers at 23. So lawyers generally have the highest values. They have the highest in-hand salary that we see here. And what is the monthly balance? The monthly balance is variable nature, of course. 2.4 for mechanic, 2.4 for manager. Lawyer is at 2.6, of course. 2.5, 2.4, and 2.3. Architect is also having a higher monthly balance and amount invested money. So what is the annual invested money that we can see here? Different professions have a different amount of money that is invested. But the important thing here is we have generated which kind of chart? We have generated the horizontal bars right out here. If I select on horizontal bars, this is how it will turn out. If I click on stack bars, that's how it looks like. If I click on side-by-side bars, this is how the graph will be generated. And let's check out on the box and whisker plot. This is how your box and whisker plot will appear. But out here, we won't be able to see, like, the individual professions. We can see the individual professions also. But the most friendly chart that we can use here is the side-by-side bars. Now out here, you can see in the side-by-side bars, we need one or more dimension and one or more measure. So this is how you draw your bar charts. And most of the situations or most of the data that we generally work across will always demand the skill on the bar charts more emphatically. Fine, but that does not end in itself. Now let us work towards building another. Let's save this. We already saved it though. So I'll remove this. Again, as you all may have noticed, depending upon the chart type, the panes also change the dimensions of the measures. So out here it was different. In case of side-by-side bars, when I click it on stacked bars, it changes. And in case of horizontal bars, again, it changes. And obviously, we've not added any filters, but suppose if I were to add a filter, something like for which credit score, if I take credit score as a filter, let us take all of them, all the values, and I click apply, and I click OK. And now I'm going to add credit score as show filter. So when I select it as a show filter, it will come up over here. So out here it is showing for all the values. If I deselect all of them and select only good values. So good values out here, we can see for good values for each of the individual occupations. What is the amount invested monthly? What is the monthly balance? And what is the monthly in-hand salary? Again, if you select poor, For poor values, this is how it is. For poor credit score, this is how the values are stacked up. And for standards credit score, this is how the values will appear. So this is also an important aspect. Let us continue to save it. So we are building the data views. We have created data views. We have understood the different bar charts, bar graphs and chart types, graphs and charts. Right, so let's work with building the data views using advanced charts and graphs also. So out here, let us save this here. So based on the credit score, we saw that how the monthly amount invested, monthly enhanced salary and monthly balance. So how do these measures or these parameters get influenced based on the credit score for each occupation that is under analysis? So across the board, you can see that as you change the parameters or the dimensions of the measures or the tables, corresponding analysis will come up. So let us work towards, is there periodicity? Yes, there is a periodicity element also. So let's remove occupation. Let's add a month here. So I'm removing all the remaining parameters. And so these are the months that are available to us, right? And so let us see, we'll prepare line graph. So we need one. Now we don't have any date range, unfortunately. So that is the only problem, although we have the month. So out here, as you see, you need different data types for different types of graphs to develop. So let us do one thing. Let us go to the data source and select this particular file, Asian Paints. Okay, let's bring it here. Now, there is no age. Is there something that can be? We do not have any of these values that we can add, that we can create a relationship with. So what I'm doing here is, yeah, it's telling us we are unable to connect it. So let's hit the connection. And let us remove this. Out here on the sheet one, we see this. So we'll open a fresh session and let me demonstrate it to you on the line graphs. That is also as much important. So I click on file, I'll click new file, will open here. Let's click on Microsoft Excel. I'll take Apple file data. And out here, okay, so we have Apple, right? Click on sheet one, and this is what we have. We have the date range as the desired for. So let us drag and drop the date as what? Yeah, we'll drag it as part of columns. We'll take the close prices and also take the adjusted close prices. And we'll take this. Now, what do we see here? This is yearly data, right? So let us click on that and bring it down to daily data. So out here, we see that for the daily data, this is how the price movements are reflected. And if I were to take this as a charts area, let us take this one. So it will show us charts area. If I were to take it as a continuous area, this is how it will show up. If I wish to make it dual combination, right? This is how the graph or chart will appear like. Of course, it depends on the type of chart you want to build or the type of measures and the dimensions that you are selecting. So that is an important aspect to that. Let us also see if there is something we can do with the volumes. The volumes are reflected over here as the end of date values. And for the volumes, we can take only a line chart. If you want, you can take this chart also, but no, line chart out here is a more meaningful outcome. You can also take the areas chart. That is the areas chart for discrete values. This is the area chart for continuous values. So when you study for discrete and continuous values, what difference do you see? One date, 0 dimensions, one measure. One date, 0 dimensions, and one measure. So there is not much of a change that is seen in terms of plotting the graph or in terms of the requirement. It's just that you need the data set, which is typically a time series data set, as we might call it. So building max M geographic data analysis. Let's come back here. So when we speak of geographic data analysis, let us do one thing. We'll have to open another fresh source. Let's click on file. I click new. Yes, did we open the third session or not? Yeah, it's opening. Right, why is it taking an age to open? Yeah, so let's click on continue. Maximizing this screen. And let's click on data source. Click on all files, desktop, many-tab data set. We intend to study the petrol consumption. Let's take June 23 data. Click open. Right. So we have the data set imported here. And we see country specific. So let's bring the countries here. And we'll also check for the yearly gallons per capita. This is important actually. Out here, we can sort it if you want to. If you bring it, if you click on this, on the country, this is how you can sort it as a data source order. You can also sort it as what? Sort it. You can also format it. So these are some of the features that we had discussed earlier also. So you can select it as a descending order. If you take it as a descending order, then Zimbabwe will come first. Ascending order, Afghanistan will come first. Let's close this window. Now, if I change this, right. So what do I see here? Now, out here, we are here having the maps typically. And what is this? This is the country specific consumption that is showing up over here. And we have set the colors and all. So let's edit the colors. Automatic, they have set. We can make it manual. Red to gold or green to blue diverging, red to green diverging. I click advanced, apply, click OK. So what do we see here? That the oil consumption globally, lowest 3680, highest is 2. So what is this typically? That's the yearly gallons per capita. So what do you see the yearly gallons per capita? Well, I see here that I click on this. One unknown value is here. So that's fine. We can't do anything about it. Can, but we don't want to fall off. So what do we see here? The gallon per capita is what is highest in, like, US, Canada, Iceland, and much of the Western Europe that we see. Even in the case of Canada out here, it is highest. It is the highest in case of Australia and Saudi Arabia too. Now, why is it highest in the case of Saudi Arabia? Because it is the largest exporter and producer of the oil and gas of fuel source as a fuel source. So its oil consumption is the almost the highest. For yearly gallons is what 1560. For US it's what 934. For Canada it's 1084 for 1048. Australia it's the lowest, and then we have the Russians also and Iceland also. But typically, as we see it, it's the highest in case of Saudi Arabia because that is the world's largest oil and gas producer. So this is how. What is the significance? Why am I showing this graph? Because I wanted to show you the symbol map. That's why. Just wanted to show you an ordinary map. For the symbol map, this is how it will look like. So when we say this is how it will look like, what does it mean? The bigger the consumption, bigger is the circle that we are seeing here. So that is the kind of mark they have selected. If I select here something like a pie, now that won't affect it. But what do we see here? The consumption, the smallest dots that we are seeing here, their per capita consumption is the lowest. And in case of Singapore, it's the highest, followed by Saudi Arabia. 1560, out here it's 3680. It's quite surprising. So depending upon, even in case of India, it's just 15 gallons per capita, which means per capita oil consumption is one of the highest in Singapore, surprisingly. And that is followed by Saint Pierre and Miquelon, and Saudi, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Oman. So the Gulf countries, they have one of the highest consumptions too, followed by Malta, Belgium, France, Netherlands. So these countries also will be having, the European countries also have a very high yearly gallons per capita. So again, this is the one part, but how did he do it? We have the values of the data. So what should your data set typically consist of? It should consist of the latitudes and the longitudes. It should also have the country details. If you set your country details as marks and then use this particular graph of symbol maps, then you'll be able to generate this kind of graph. So let's save it. I'm saving it as well. We already saved one graph, one file, that was a credit analysis. We are saving this as what? Symbol graph, symbol maps graph. Okay, and this is what? Out here, we'll save this file separately. That is for line and area graphs. Line and area graph. So what I've done here is, this is the area graph. I'll also take a small worksheet out here and I'll draw a line graph for you all. So let's click on dates. And then we take the open value and the adjusted close value. And out here for year, instead of year, I'll make it month. No, why month? Let's make it day. Select day. So this is how your line graph will look like. So I'm writing a line graph. This is what? Area graph. And we are saving this sheet. We are saving this sheet. What is this sheet for? It is for the cards analysis. So, okay, let us do one thing. Let us work a bit towards the occupation and their change credit limit, their credit utilization ratios, and number of credit cards. We'll select the side-by-side bars. So this is the graph that you will generate here for side-by-side bars. So let's save this. I'm renaming this as what? Side by side graph.